So for those of you who don't know Enhanced, we're an IT managed service provider based on the South Coast in Poole. We're employee owned and have been helping businesses with their tech for over 30 years. Enhanced are a Microsoft partner that provides outsourced IT, infrastructure project engineering, cybersecurity services, as well as finance systems. Today, I'm joined by Laura, our head of people, to give us her thoughts from a HR perspective, and Neil, one of our senior engineers. Neil has built the Copilot agent that we'll show you later in the session. Today is about practical HR value. We'll start with what HR departments are dealing with day to day, then map the areas that Copilot can help. Then Neil will show a short AI agent demo focused on speeding up the recruitment process. We'll finish with a HR leader spotlight with Laura, focused on onboarding, which is relevant for hopefully almost every organisation. So let's be honest, HR departments are under pressure from every angle. There's the constant admin load, ever increasing expectations from the business, the need for consistency across managers, and the compliance demands that don't go away. And at the same time, HR is expected to be more strategic, improving onboarding, supporting retention, driving engagement, helping managers communicate better, and keeping policies current, all without adding headcount, of course. What we'll cover today is how Copilot can make HR work feel lighter, less time on repetitive tasks, faster access to information, and better quality outputs, while keeping the human element front and centre. So, some examples of how Copilot can help HR departments. Recruitment and hiring. Copilot can help with drafting job descriptions, building interview questions, summarising candidate notes, and high-volume applicant automation. Onboarding experience. Onboarding is where HR often gets buried in chasing tasks, answering the same questions again and again, and trying to keep everything consistent across managers and teams. A Copilot agent, when built properly, can help new starters find the info they need fast. Employee lifecycle. From performance cycles to role changes, offboarding and internal moves, Copilot can reduce admin and improve the quality and consistency of communications. HR operations. Everyday operational tasks, generating letters, summarising cases, drafting responses, creating templates, and turning messy notes into structured outputs. Policies and compliance. Policies change and the organisation needs them interpreted consistently. Copilot can help summarise and redraft policy guidance, compare versions, and create manager-friendly explanations. Internal comms. HR communications are constant. Announcements, reminders, and manager toolkits. Copilot can speed up drafting while keeping tone consistent. Insights and reporting. Turning raw inputs into summaries, themes, hotspots, and updates for leadership without starting from a blank page every time. So before we move on to the demo, I thought it'd be useful to explore the difference between Copilot for Microsoft 365, and Copilot agents. So Copilot for Microsoft 365 is your everyday assistant embedded inside the Office apps you already use. It helps you draft, summarize, and turn information into outputs faster in documents, spreadsheets, emails, meetings, and chats. Think of it as a highly capable PA sitting next to you while you work. Copilot agents are different. They're built for process. You design them to follow a specific workflow, apply your rules, and connect your systems. So instead of just helping you write something, an agent can guide a task end to end. Think of them as an employee who's been trained to handle one specific job really well. So before I hand over to Neil to demo, a quick disclaimer. What you'll see next is Copilot supporting the recruitment process, speeding up the admin and bringing information together. But the key here is that HR still owns the decision. Recruitment and selection always needs to be best practice, and professional judgment, things like fairness, consistency and compliance, don't change. Copilot is there to reduce the manual effort and improve consistency, not to replace human oversight. Think of it as an assistant that helps you work faster and more confidently, with HR remaining accountable for the outcome. So over to Neil for the demo.
Hello everyone. I'm going to be walking through a custom agent that we've created in Copilot Studio to assist in the hiring process. Before we look at the agent in action, I want to spend a moment to explain this agent's purpose and how it's been set up in Copilot Studio. The diagram on screen shows the agent workflow to complete these tasks. It has been designed as a hiring agent to assist in the recruitment process. It can upload CVs into a database, confirm the best role for the candidate based on their experience, filter open job applications to assist in the shortlisting process, and even prepare an interview prep document with relevant questions for the role. Right now we're in Copilot Studio. This is where we build, test, and deploy Copilot agents. For this demo, we're going to focus on the hiring and interview agent. The hiring agent is the central orchestrator for this agent solution. It can delegate to other agents to perform tasks. This is what we would call a multi-agent architecture. By using this approach, we can use child or standalone agents that are configured for handling specialized tasks, allowing more control over workflows and flexibility for these agents to be used elsewhere if required. If we go into the Agents tab, we can see two agents that are connected to the hiring agent, the Application Intake Agent and the Interview Agent. The Application Intake's purpose is to process incoming CVs and store candidates in the system. It then notifies the channel in Teams when new CVs are uploaded. We can see the clear instructions we've given this child agent for the tasks that it can perform. Agents sometimes require tools to perform certain predefined tasks. This helps maintain consistency in the way the agent performs. We have created specific agent flows to cover different scenarios it will encounter, such as uploading a CV or submitting job applications. The interview agent assists in the interview process and provides information about CVs, candidates, job roles, and evaluation criteria. You will notice that we have ticked the box to allow this agent to pass conversation history. This gives it the context it requires to perform the tasks at hand without losing context. The interview agent is a standalone agent that can be called upon if required. This is useful for scenarios where you might have more than one use case for the agent. It has been given specific instructions to determine its function and guardrails to ensure it follows ethical standards. We can see it has been given knowledge sources that can be used to formulate responses. It's connected to Dataverse, which is a fancy name for Microsoft's cloud database that forms the back end of the Power Platform. The front end, which is used by the hiring team, is a Power App, which gives a nice user interface to see all of the candidates, active job roles, evaluation criteria, CVs, and active job applications. These are fictitious candidates and CVs we've created using AI to demo the solution. Now that we've seen a high-level overview of how the agent is configured, let's dive into a live demonstration to show you how the agent works in practice. This is the test pane, which can be used for testing agents before they're published. I want to show you interacting with the agent using this view, as we're able to see what's happening in the background after each prompt. This is very useful when building the agent to ensure it works as expected. We will start off by uploading a CV for a new candidate. I just drag and drop it into the chat window. We then ask the agent to upload the CV and show open roles that match the candidate's qualifications and experience, stating it doesn't have to be a perfect match, so it can show the roles that for this candidate may be suitable for. Now we can see in the background it's triggering predefined flows to upload the CV, summarize it, and then provide a response based off these tasks. As we can see, the agent has now uploaded the CV and provided a list of open roles that are suitable for this candidate. The agent explains why these roles are a match for the candidate, which is really useful. We are going to apply for the Power Platform Architect role, as it's been listed as the most suitable job for this candidate. It will submit the application based on the information from the CV. We can now see in the test pane the submit application flow triggering in the background to submit the application for this role and add it to the database that we looked at earlier in this demo. The agent has now responded stating that we have successfully submitted the application for this candidate. If we go into the Hiring Hub application and refresh it, we can see that it has successfully added the candidate's details to the database and added the job application for the Power Platform Architect role. We've now started a new chat with the hiring agent to clear any previous context from earlier conversations. This time, we want to summarize a CV that has already been uploaded and find a suitable open role for this candidate based on the evaluation criteria for each role. We prompt the agent to summarize an existing CV in the database and find a suitable match. The agent then searches the knowledge bases in Dataverse to find the candidate's CV to formulate the response in the chat. The interview agent has now responded confirming which roles are a match for the candidate and provides reasoning. This saves having to manually check CVs and matching it with open roles, which can be a very time-consuming process. If we start a new chat, we can also get the interview agent to review all of the open job applications for the Power Platform Developer role and shortlist the top 3 candidates based on the evaluation criteria we have defined for this role. Again, we can see the interview agent searching its knowledge sources to determine the top 3 candidates based on the open job applications for this role and the evaluation criteria. It has now responded highlighting the top 3 applications and provided reasoning for why these candidates are a good match for the role. This could save a huge amount of time during the hiring process and helps remove bias by using an analytical approach to determine which candidates should be shortlisted. Obviously, human decision-making will still be required to make the final decision, and the output should be sanity checked to ensure that it's accurate. The aim here isn't to completely replace the process with AI, but to use AI to aid in the decision-making process and save hours of time reviewing each CV manually. Now we're going to head on over to the interview agent test pane. We've determined one of our shortlisted candidates for the role, and we now need to prepare for the interview. We ask the agent to prepare an interview prep document for one of the candidates that has been shortlisted based on our previous conversations with the hiring agent. This then triggers the generate interview doc topic, which is used to generate the Word document. The agent has then provided the interview prep document. This can be downloaded and opened in Word. If we download the document and open it in Word, we can see that it has provided details of the role that has been applied for, the candidate's strengths, their gaps and their risks. It has also provided custom questions for the interview tailored for the role, the candidate and their experience. This is another task that will usually be very time-consuming, automated with AI to aid in the hiring process and free up time for more valuable work. Again, we need to verify the output to ensure it's correct and make amendments as we do with any AI-generated content, but this is still much quicker than manually creating the interview prep document. These agents can be deployed to Copilot Chat, Teams, and many other third-party platforms. We are living in an age where automation and AI is being incorporated into everyday tasks to help streamline our processes, provide consistency, and save time. This is just one example of a Copilot agent. There are many more potential use cases. Hope you've enjoyed the demo. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat, and we will answer them as best as we can at the end. Over to you, Johnny.
So next up is our HR Leader Spotlight with Laura. Laura is our head of people and has been with Enhanced for over 13 years, almost as long as I have. Yeah, so Laura, what did you think of Neil's demo? Would you be comfortable using an AI agent for the recruitment process?
Good morning. Yes, really enjoyed the demo. I can absolutely see how you could use the AI agent in the recruitment process, particularly in a scenario where you've got a number of roles. If it's a popular position or there's lots of applicants, it's very intentional. So I feel like that would definitely help. As you've already said, though, as a supporting factor and using your human instinct as well, definitely think there's a place for it.
Okay. Oh, gone forward. Oops. Right, so let's talk about another potential HR use case for Copilot then, onboarding. I guess in practice, this might be, I don't know, a document repository containing documents like the staff handbook, the org chart, policies, etc. So from a HR perspective, Laura, what does good onboarding actually look like and where does it usually fall short in reality?
Good onboarding, I think, is structured but welcoming. So I think it's having clear expectations. So you've got the right tools and the right access from day one, but you're also thinking about building that psychological safety, having a sense of belonging and purpose, um, creating regular check-ins. People don't want to be looking in 500 different places for some key information that we can give to them really easily. Where does it fall short? Too much reliance on certain individuals, inconsistency, I guess. That summarizes it. Patchy communication. And I can imagine if you're new, information overload in week one, and then a lack of follow up to see how that information's been digested. So I think it's about making sure that you've got clear expectations on how Copilot would support onboarding and where you'd still have your human interaction, I think.
Okay, thank you. Good answer. So how do you think an AI agent or a Copilot agent could help you deliver a more consistent onboarding experience without taking away the human element? Because you've sort of covered that.
Yeah, and we spoke about this the other day in the office, because there's so many use cases, but I think it's about the agent handling the predictable and the repeatable parts. So the things that you do each time, so timelines, reminders, checklists. I'm sure every HR professional listening will understand the nudges, the reminders to do stuff, so that we can focus on the stuff we enjoy doing, the human stuff, relationship building, coaching, culture. So it's supporting us rather than replacing us, but it's giving us the structure to have those repeatable tasks happening in the background that kind of give you the freedom to breathe a little bit to do your day-to-day job.
Okay, brilliant. And what impact do you think that would have, not just on HR workload, but on how new starters feel in those first 30 days?
So I'm a big believer in how somebody feels, builds that relationship to how they show up. And we are so big at Enhanced on the vision, the values, the behaviours that go behind that. So I want people to be thinking about, oh, how do I fit with the culture? How can I build relationships with people who I'm going to spend lots of time with? So it gives them the clarity, it gives them the confidence. They know what's expected, and so do their managers. So I guess less firefighting, fewer manual queries, although that's part of our role and that's what managers are there to support. I think it would show a faster ramp up and it would build on that engagement quite quickly.
Okay. What about ethics? Do you have any concerns?
Yeah, I think everyone in HR thinks about AI and okay, how do we make sure that we are following best practice? Because that's our core, that's what we're trained to do. But I think it's being transparent. So as Neil's already touched on, having the parameters of what the agent's there to do and it being intentional. So it supports us, it helps with speed and scale, but it doesn't take away context and empathy and all the fundamentals of why we do what we do.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because in this example, this agent has been given guardrails to make sure it follows ethical standards. So this this makes sure it doesn't avoid it avoids discrimination based on age or gender. And you can also put in the instructions what the agent is capable of doing and what it shouldn't be doing, so it avoids answering questions about holiday requests or grievances, and make sure that any sort of activities that require human input still follow the correct channels.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, and that's a really key thing, that you want to be able to give the right information. We don't want managers going rogue. We want people to know, I can get that information, but now I need HR. And I think that's where it supports us, as I keep saying, as opposed to takes away the piece that we really add value with. I think sometimes the level of knowledge you want to provide needs to be right for the role and right for the manager, as opposed to giving them too much and then it's a bit rogue.
Okay. Okay, so are there any other HR use cases you can think of for AI or Copilot?
I think training and building the training presentations, the content, the activities is quite a good use case. So if there were a large HR team that all individually run training sessions, rather than reinventing the wheel, there could be a way of using the agent to provide you with historic content that you've used before. It gives you a quick and unique way of doing things without always having to create that yourself, particularly if you're sharing data amongst teams. So I think in a team environment, absolutely, I could see where there'd be a lot of use cases for knowledge sharing, knowledge based training content.
Yeah, I guess it could be, I don't know, prompting a user to do training over a period of time, making sure they're doing their milestones, and without the HR person having to constantly chase.
Yeah, that, and much like we've been doing at Enhance, where we've been running some management training sessions, when I'm building that and pulling it all together, if I've done that in the past, being able to access that and building on something we've already got, as opposed to starting from scratch, because we know what suits our culture, we know what's worked in the past, we just make sure it's compliant and it aligns with, your culture, your purpose, all of those key things. So it kind of goes back to everything we said all along, that you keep that human element, but it just supports you to do that maybe a bit faster, a bit more predictable, but it's intentional. Its intent is there to support you.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, let's throw it out to our attendees. Let's see if there's been any questions in the chat. Right, so question, are you worried about how AI could impact HR, particularly around governance and control?
Yes, I think that goes back to the point about making sure that the information you allow people to have access to is safe, it's considered, it's always got the ability to fall back to HR when it's required, so that we're doing things properly. But I'll let Neil talk a little bit more about how the agent can support that. I know we touched on it earlier, but just to give people that reassurance that it's important to still remember the ethics and the best practice in the tech.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, and it's not something to ignore. And that's why it's really important to make sure that you put the guardrails into the agent to make sure it follows best practice, ethical standards, and that you explicitly state what the agent should and should not be doing. Because there are some processes that can be automated with AI, such as repeatable tasks that take up a lot of time, whereas there are certain elements of HR that you wouldn't want an AI agent to handle, such as any sort of emotional support or anything that requires that human touch. So the aim here isn't to completely replace all of the HR processes with AI, is to find what can we actually automate that still fits within the boundaries of the regulations that are in place.
Okay, brilliant.
Perfect.
Question from Magda. In the interview prep document, can the questions for all candidates be the same to promote fairness and help with the scoring process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in this example, the questions were tailored specifically for the candidate, but we could absolutely change the configuration so that you could have a consistent set of questions. Because like you've mentioned, if you want to make sure that the interview's fair and you have like a scoring card that you use for the interview, it's going to be difficult to be able to score it accurately if all of the questions are different. And so you could definitely change the agent to have a more consistent set of questions.
I think we've sort of covered this, but I'll ask it anyway. So how do we make sure Copilot supports better HR decisions without replacing human judgment or responsibility?
How do you summarize it all?
Yeah.
I think it's about giving people confidence. It's giving the autonomy, but with safe parameters where key policies, procedures are always discussed with HR. I mean, self-serve information where we can, supporting what other systems you have in place, great. But it's just balancing the risk versus the gain from supporting us, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about making sure that humans are still in the loop with these processes, and so we make sure that anything that requires human input or approval follows a process, and that the user is then prompted to reach out to their HR representative to get the necessary information. We want to make sure that we have empathy and we stay human and we don't give everyone a chatbot to speak to. We want to make sure that we're only doing that for the processes that can be automated without causing issues with that.
Human in the loop. I love that. Brilliant. Thank you, Neil. Another question from Magda. Can the interview notes be uploaded to the agent after the interview for storing and feedback purposes?
Yes, so they could. In this example, we haven't configured the agent to do that. But what you could do is you could set up a specific flow for the interview notes to then be uploaded to the agent. It would then put those details into the Dataverse database that we looked at, or a SharePoint list, or some other sort of back-end application. And then what you could then do is have some sort of process where it could feed back the information to the candidate for either successful or unsuccessful applicants.
Okay,